So a common question from potential home sellers is, do we have to do any work on the house, or can we just kind of sell it as is? You know, let the buyers decide what they want to put into the house and then they can do it. It's actually a really good question, and I have some thoughts. So presuming that your interest isn't time, that you just have to sell the house quickly, that you're actually interested in potential increase of net proceeds, let's talk through that. What I'm going to do is I'm going to start with a real world example. Two homes in the same exact neighborhood in Costa Mesa that sold within a couple of months of each other last year. And even the scenarios were the same. It was the family of the original purchasers that were selling the house. They'd owned the house for decades and decades, and there hadn't been any significant work done on the house in years. Now, they weren't exactly in original shape, but let's just say they were well used. Take a look at these pictures. This is the first house. And this is the second house. All right, so quick question. Which of those two houses had a better chance of making an emotional connection with a buyer? Which house do you think sold for more? And they're basically the same size. Let me show you three pics again. Do you notice anything? On this house, neither of the bathrooms had been touched, even though they definitely could use an updating. Nor was the kitchen touched, although it was definitely past due for an updating as well. In this house, the only things that were done is you had new carpet put in the bedroom floors, they cleaned the carpet of the sunroom, and a light coat of paint on all the walls. That was it. And furthermore, the sellers didn't have to come out of pocket with any money whatsoever. All of the costs to do that little bit of work, including the staging, were paid out of the net proceeds of the sale. So in fact, it was the buyers that paid for all that stuff because they're the ones that gave the sellers the money. In my home seller strategy session, one of the challenges that I discuss with homeowners is the difference between wholesale and retail. In fact, if you click right here above my left shoulder, that will take you to more information on my home seller strategy session. Now, of the two houses, which of the two is a wholesale house and which of those two is a retail house? I'm guessing that on this one, if the sellers ever considered doing the work, there was probably some kind of decision that just said, hey, you know what? Let's not take the time and energy and money to do some work. We'll just let the buyers, get the house and they can do what they want to it to make it exactly their own. In that case, a wholesale product got a wholesale buyer and they got a wholesale price. This house, with less than a week's worth of work, presented as a retail product, attracted a retail buyer and got a retail price. Another thing that's interesting about this is that it's very possible that both buyers saw both houses. They were in the same neighborhood within a very short period of time of each other. But one house got one buyer, the other house got another buyer and more money. And note that they didn't have to do a huge, big refurb rehab of the house. They didn't try to deliver a turnkey product. They just did a couple of very easy, very inexpensive things that probably got them an 8 to 10 times return on that money. What they did is they hired a real estate broker that had contacts with designers and contractors that first of all figured out what could be done to the house, and then they wisely considered what should be done to the house, and that's what they went to market with. So the answer to the question, should you do some work and prep before putting your house on the market? Only if you like a significant return on investment. Now, if you have further questions about this, you can call me 949-413-2371. You can also email me, Michael at housumgroup.com. And here on my channel, or here on the landing page on my website, there's more helpful videos for educational purposes if you're trying to figure out the best way to go about selling your house. Thanks for watching.